Hi everybody, peace. Peace. I need to talk about Lebensborn and how that is affiliated with Trump and also the Aryan race. And I'm going to start with the Bible and Cain and Abel. And I'm going to hopefully keep it to 20 minutes. I don't know. Anyway, back in the Bible days, Cain killed Abel. Now, supposedly, those of you who believe that the Bible is 100% written by God and there's no variation, I hate to tell you, but one of my major things is supposed to tell you that God did not write the Bible. Sorry about that, folks. What did happen, though, was at some point in evolution, and that's how he made us, with evolution. Because that's how he wanted to make us, and he's God, so that's how he made us. So at a certain point in the evolutionary chain, that's when we got our soul. And the whole purpose of us being here is so that we can choose for our soul whether you want it to go to heaven or hell. And that's it. Other than that, have fun. God bless. Peace. But in the Bible story, Cain and Abel, there was Adam and Eve, and they had two sons, Cain and Abel, and somehow the sons procreated. Well, right there, somebody should be able to say, well, then the Bible is not correct. Because you do need girls. Us girls. Without us girls, there'd be no people. So the people in the tribe thought that, wow, he killed, that's powerful. That's a powerful thing, and it changes the dynamic, and so they started to worship Cain for being very powerful. Now, in the Bible, Cain is cast out, and in the story from the Satanist, it is that he decided that he was better than God, and since God was black and Cain was black and everybody around him was black, Adam and Eve were black, they've done studies, and there are our DNA can be linked back to the people who are in the movie The Gods Must Be Crazy. I did that movie. That was a very tiny, tiny little tribe in Central Africa. And that's where the beginnings of the humans comes from Central Africa. So we are all essentially black. So since Cain was rejecting God, and the people who followed Cain decided that they didn't want to be black because they didn't want to be in God's image. And they wanted to breed themselves away from God. This is the story that I got from Rita. It's the ancient satanic story of the beginning of the Satanic Church. So, evidently, there was a migration that happened, and the people that migrated with Cain tried to breed themselves a lighter skin. So every time that they'd have a child with a light skin, then that child would be bred to the lightest skinned man, and so on until and then if they did have like an albino child, that child would be almost revered as a god, and and that's why there's in a lot of Hollywood stories there's an albino who is like the devil. But so if you think of it that way, it's like it's a satanic church that reveres albinos, and so they are kind of considered gods, but they are also really abused because they want that child to turn evil, and that's a whole other story. So and they found that if they migrated north, that their skins got lighter and lighter. And also I would think that if you go into areas with a lot of water and you're able to wash daily and stay in the shade with trees, then your skin will get lighter and lighter. And that's true if you took the people in the Middle East and you bring them to Europe, and where they have access to water and shade, their skin gets as light as they're white. You know, they're white people, but they just look a lot darker because your skin picks up the colors around it. Like if you spilled some chocolate milk on yourself and you didn't know it, and you didn't have a shower every day, and you waited a couple of days, that area is going to be brown skin. You're going to get brown skin there. And I notice even with dust, like when I spend a lot of time in the desert and I have a lot of dust on me, and especially if the way I camp was really in the desert with very little water. You know, I could bring in about 80 gallons of water, and I would want to make that last at least a week, 2 weeks. I could do 2 weeks with that amount of water, and that's a really a little amount of water. But what was happening was my skin was getting darker and darker and darker because I couldn't take a really good shower. And that's what happens in the Middle East. They're basically white with a tan. And they're darker and darker because of the lack of water and the sand always in the air. So the opposite happened with Cain and his followers heading further and further north and into areas with more and more water and more shade, and purposefully breeding themselves white. You get all the way up to Norway, where there was quite a bit of Satanism. But those people, I've been to Norway, those people are all blonde-haired, blue-eyed, gorgeous people. Beautiful people. But that was the result of the breeding program. So, now the Aryan race, which is what Hitler thought was the master race, because Hitler was in a satanic cult, and that's what he was taught. And the people who he rose to power with, like Heinrich Himmler and a few others, they were also in a satanic cult, and they learned how to mind control whole crowds of people and how to hide what the sinister things that they were doing. And according to Trump, his mother was behind the extermination of the Jews. What they were doing was they were abducting Jews and arresting Jews, and because the Jews had the most money, and it was German law that you could confiscate possessions of someone who you arrested. So what they used to do, the SS used to do, is they used to arrest as many Jews as they could. You know, if they had a big shindig that they wanted to go to, and they wanted to drive fancy cars and buy their girlfriend's furs and so forth, they would arrest some Jews and then steal all their stuff And then when they let them go again, the Jews would want their stuff back, but they couldn't get it back because it had already been pawned, and usually pawned to the Russians. This is where Trump and the Russians come together. So it was Trump's mother, who was Ava Braun, it was her idea to exterminate the Jews, because that way, you know, they were very well connected people, and they had lawyers, and they wanted their possessions back. It's their stuff. You know, you can't just. That's what they're doing now. Trump had set up in the South, if you arrest an immigrant, you can just steal all their stuff. That's so illegal. It should be. I mean, I can't believe it's a law in the United States against Mexicans, who are notoriously poor. They are the backbone of this country. Anyway, so that was Ava Braun's idea, was once you arrest the Jews, you have to kill them. And then they just started to do it on such a grand scale because they were making so much money. And that was Hitler's idea, was with the Jews, was that he wanted to make an Aryan race, and which he said was the master race, because they're taught that if you grow up in a satanic church, you're going to be taught that the whiter your skin, the further away you are from God, and that's, you know, closer to the devil, and that's much better. And you know, and people who are closer to the devil will also murder and steal, and that's a much finer way to live, according to Satanists. So he continued to do that, but more for money than for the actual race. But the race thing came in where he wanted to continue the breeding program that got started with Cain killing Abel, and then leaving the tribe and migrating north and breeding themselves to be white. He wanted to breed themselves to be very white, like the Norse people. So he would bring Norwegian women who were blonde and blue-eyed and had good figures. He would bring them to Germany and keep them as breeding slaves. And then he would breed, a lot of times, the SS soldiers were gay, and the best-looking ones that he thought were the best-looking ones, he would have them breed because they weren't married, because they were gay. He would make them go and breed with the blonde-haired women, and they did have a bunch of, what did I call them, Lehman something, babies, which meant the spring of life. So, so what Trump's mother did was she got herself pregnant. She wanted to have a boy, and she kept having girls, and she felt that girls could not do anything. And even though she was a girl, that she didn't want to be bothered bringing up a girl, because girls can't do anything. They can't hold a job or anything. So eventually she had a boy, Donald, and she kept him alive, and this was at the end of the war. According to Donald, they dressed some people up as Hitler and Ava Braun and killed them, and went to the local police, who were also SS, and had them declare that yes, indeed, this is Hitler and Ava Braun's body, and something to do with the Russians too. Now, Trump said he liked to deal with the Russians because they liked the treasure that his mother brought back. His mother took him and as much treasure as she could. He called it treasure throughout the conversation. That and she felt it was worth $1 billion. And back then, in '43, $1 billion was unheard of amount of money. But the Russians liked the type of things that Trump's mother liked, like crowns and jewel encrusted, daggers and emblems and things like that. The Russians really liked that, so she could get top dollar for that, to fence those types of treasure. And her connection with the Russian mafia went all the way back to when she was a girlfriend in the SS and Hitler's girlfriend. And she had a lot of connections in organized crime. And so